Can everybody hear me okay? Hello? Okay. Hey, thank you for coming. My name is Neil Santaniello. I teach journalism here at Florida Atlantic University. Part of my job is to teach undergraduates journalism with a focus on environmental journalism because I teach that course here at FAU. And the other part of my job is to run an annual week-long fellowship, educational fellowship for professional journalists who cover the environment, called the Scripps Institute in the Environment. It's like a 6-day program. We do it in the spring, and we bring in 40-plus speakers or so. And my involvement with this today has to do with that institute. One of the things I wanted to do when I do that program, we bring in up to 25 journalists from around the U.S. to learn about environmental issues over a 6-day period. We go on field trips. We have expert speakers coming in. But I wanted to do some sort of a local event for local journalists and to focus on one subject area for just one day. And that's how I came to talk to Dr. Voss about this. Thank you for coming. It occurred to me that if we had renamed this event the Rally to Restore Sanity and Comprehensive Planning, we might have drawn more media attention. This conference began with a discussion I had with Michael Singer, an environment-minded artist-designer who not long ago held an eminent scholarship here at FAU. It was further developed, refocused, and refined by Dr. Jaap Voss, FAU's planning school chair, who bravely agreed to step out of his comfort zone and engineer an event aimed at both journalists and planners. Daniel Morris, the planning school external affairs director, who's way in the back there behind the laptop, deserves kudos for expertly pulling all the pieces together, leaving me with very, very little to do, which I was quite amazed at. So, as most of you know, the media landscape has been in some upheaval due to the economy and the internet. I knew it would be a challenge to draw multitasking journalists out of their downsized newsrooms and into a deep discussion on land use and comprehensive planning in Florida. Not as many, and maybe very few, if any, are assigned these days to cover growth and development as a beat, which is a change from how it used to be. And the subject doesn't stir editor passions as well as a good police story or a good political scandal. Still, a lot of environmental problems stem directly from planning and land use decision making and approvals, and this remains a significant soft spot in local reporting. Often it's the newer and experienced journalists who get placed on the local government beat, tossed into the planning and zoning board meetings where they don't know enough about the process to connect the dots and the deal making. I hope this session helps local journalists see more of the forest for the trees before the bulldozers sleeping through the recession awaken and make a beeline for the trees. And I hope it makes planners more sensitive to challenges journalists face writing about this subject. Dr. Voss.
All right, good morning, everybody. I have to get used to using the microphone. Welcome. This was kind of a challenge, I have to tell you. Working with journalists is different, and we're not used to it as planners. And I think Neil is absolutely right. We had to get a little bit out of our comfort zone. I think we put together a really interesting program. I think the timing is perfect. I was telling Neil, we shouldn't have called it Amendment 4. We should have talked, what were we thinking as planners that we worried about Amendment 4? There's other things I think to worry about now. But this conference I think is interesting. So what we try to do today is have and I learned this from Neil, have a modular conference. And the intent was that journalists can come in and out whenever they feel like and just listen to that session that they think are interesting. So we're going to start this morning with a session that Gene Bowles is going to do, and he's basically going to try to get us all on the same page about planning. So he's going to talk about what is planning, how does planning work in Florida. Then the three chairs of the three planning programs are going to talk about what they think the future for planning will hold. And we talked about this before. It's going to be a free-flowing discussion. I think that's the right way to say it, right? After that, we're going to have Robert Lang, who's going to talk about what we think is an important way of looking at planning, which is the region approach, so thinking about mega regions. Then we're going to have Diana Mitsova, who's going to talk about climate change, or she's really not going to talk about climate change, she's going to talk about sea level rise and what challenges that brings for planning. And then after that, I think the most interesting panel maybe is when we're going to talk with the journalists and we're going to have a round table about what is the role of the press and how can we use, as planners, how can we use the press and what do we need to do to inform the press better. So I think it's going to be a very interesting discussion. I also want to let you know that we are trying to communicate better. So as part of this, this is all live video streamed online, so anybody can actually watch this online. And what we have been able to do, if it works, I'm looking at Dan here, but it works, okay. People actually that are watching it somewhere else can ask questions. So they can actually submit questions, and then Dan will be the intermediary who is going to tell us what those questions are and ask them to the panelists. So with that, I would like to introduce Jean Bowles. I've actually known Jean since, I think, 2003, something like that, when Jean asked me to sit on the committee for the Planning Commissioners training. And Jean set up this training program intended to make planning commissioners understand planning better. He's been running that program very successfully for the last 7 years?
Since 2000.
Since 2000, all right. And he's basically going to give a bridge version for journalists and get us all on speed. Jean, thank you for being here.
Okay.